Welcome to Sabbatical 101. My name is Bethany Walensky, and I'm an associate professor at Michigan State University. I had a life-changing sabbatical, and I'm on a mission to help fellow academics do the same. This podcast is a resource for all things academic sabbaticals. Each episode will provide you with inspiration and insight into the sabbatical planning process, regardless of your institution, discipline, length of sabbatical, or where you plan to sabbatical. I'm so excited to have you along for the ride. My guest in this episode is Amy Belfi, who is one of my clients in my sabbatical rescue program. We met in January 2025 when she was just starting out her sabbatical, and she was feeling uncertain and anxious about how to make the most of it. In this episode, we talk about her experience in the program and get an update on how her sabbatical is going so far. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, Amy. Thanks so much for being on the podcast today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So before we get started talking about your experience in the sabbatical rescue program and hearing a little bit more about your sabbatical, could you just introduce yourself, say what institution you're at, and a little bit about your research focus?
Sure. So I'm Amy Belfi. I'm an associate professor in the psychology department at Missouri University of Science and Technology. My background is in cognitive neuroscience, and my research is on music, cognition, and perception. So I primarily study music and how music evokes emotional responses and memories and why we like certain types of music and why music is rewarding to us.
Great. Well, it's not pertinent to our podcast episode today, but later I might ask you about why my kids and I were enjoying belting out a Coldplay song together at the top of our lungs.
That sounds awesome.
It was so fun. It's fun to have them get to the age where we can do that together.
Yes. For me, it's Baby Shark right now.
Yeah, we're in slightly different parenting phases. We're in the Imagine Dragons and Coldplay era.
That's awesome.
So we first connected in January. I think it was like mid-January, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah. And you had just started your sabbatical because you're on sabbatical this semester. We're recording this at the end of March 2025. So you're about halfway through your sabbatical. Can you remember back in January where you were in your thinking about your sabbatical at that point and just how you were feeling about it?
Yeah, I think I was like preemptively feeling stressed out about it already because I had so much that I wanted to do during it and like goals, but I was already feeling anxious about how I was going to do it all. And that's when I saw someone post about you. I was like, I definitely need that.
Yeah. And so we connected. And what made you decide to enroll in the sabbatical rescue program?
I just like I said, I was kind of feeling stressed about, this is, an opportunity and I need to take advantage of it. And I don't want to squander this time that I have. And I thought working with you would help me lessen that anxiety and more strategically plan for the sabbatical and make the most out of it.
Yeah. And so just to give listeners a little context, we worked in kind of a sprint together over the course of 2 weeks. We did 4 sessions to walk you through the planning process. And I remember one of the things that we talked about a lot was, you have big goals for your sabbatical. So you're writing a book. You, of course, have lots of other things going on as busy academics do. But one of the things you wanted to work on during your sabbatical was really learning how to be okay not working all the time. So tell me a little bit about how that's going for you.
Yeah, it's going okay. I mean, it's going so something that we did when we worked together was try to block out time blocks for specific things. So like one of my goals was like exercise every day. Well, unfortunately, I had a horrible bout with getting the flu and I didn't exercise for like basically an entire month. That was terrible. And so now I did get back on my Peloton this morning, but I have up until the flu situation, I was really good about like, this is my time for exercise. And then another thing is I started taking piano lessons and like, this is my time for piano. And so most normal days I've been good at those things. The other thing we talked about was like, because exercise and playing piano and stuff is kind of productive, it's like doing something. And so then you challenge me even more like, would you ever be okay just reading a novel or something in the middle of the day? And I'm not going to lie, I haven't gotten there yet. I have not gotten to that level yet, but I'm still feeling good about doing these other things. I've been volunteering more at my kid's school. I'm going on a field trip with her on Wednesday. That kind of stuff, I feel like I've been better about and not feeling so bad about that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I remember, one of the things we do in the program is kind of map out your daily and weekly rhythms. And so for you, there are these distinctly different days based on your childcare arrangements. So we did that
Yeah.
time blocking. Like, okay,
Mm-hmm,
what
mm-hmm.
would kind of an ideal Monday look like, knowing that ideal days don't actually exist? I feel like, as a
Yeah.
sidebar, it's just been a terrible illness a winter. Like, everyone's been so sick all the time.
Combined with the NIH stuff at the beginning of my sabbatical and then getting the flu, I'm like, can I have a do-over? I mean, this has been fine, but I'm like, no, that's not fair. I started my sabbatical with this like absolute mayhem submitting a grant. But anyway,
Yeah. Do you know if that program is still
so
you're being reviewed?
well, I submitted a grant and then I was supposed to serve on a study section the same week in February, late February. My grant has been assigned to a study section, so I assume it's going to be reviewed in June. The study section I was supposed to be on in February is postponed now until next week, which is throwing a wrench into my schedule, personal scheduling, because anyway, so such a waste. Like, why? Why did that need to happen?
Yeah. Because you were really hoping to have kind of February was your kind of like last
Yes.
sprint to get some work done. And then the NIH or Trump
I was
blew
going to
that up.
have that all behind me. And now I still have to kind of do the last minute preparing for the study section, just like going over all the grants that I read and reviewed because I did that over a month ago, So I have
Yeah.
to my inconvenience is a small thing in the grand scheme of all of this terrible stuff happening. So I shouldn't complain because it's not all about me, but it still is kind of like a frustrating thing to happen during this sabbatical time. It's not ideal.
Yeah, for sure. But I think also part of what you've talked about, the ways that you've been able to continue to do some of the things you really wanted to prioritize on your sabbatical is a testament to, your ability to pivot and take it in stride, even though it's really frustrating and inconvenient. Yeah. When you think about the sabbatical rescue program, you went from feeling anxious, how am I going to make the most of the time, to hopefully feeling like you had a pretty structured plan. Do you remember, if you think back to our work together, what were the most impactful aspects of the program?
I think some of the goals and my big pillars almost of like what I wanted to do is like rest, focus on relationships, focus on it's funny. I know when we first talked, you said a lot of people come to you with like professional goals. And I'm like, I'm cool with the professional goals. Like, I don't have problems with that. I have problems with the personal goals. I don't need help with like my work getting done because I get it done. So like focusing on all of that stuff that was really useful. And just kind of having those pillars in place of like, if someone asks me to do something, is saying yes, that actually going to serve these goals? And then the other thing that was really helpful was like we already talked about, like outlining every day, kind of like a rough guideline of what is each day going to be like. I think that really helped. Yeah, that really helped just like make sure I'm prioritizing my exercise, my piano practice, my personal stuff, and then the work gets done.
Yeah, I know. I think you're the first person who's just, not that you don't care about the work, but you're like, I have the work down. I am exceeding expectations in my department. Yeah. I don't need to be more productive. If anything, you wanted to.
I want to be less productive.
Right. I didn't want to say less productive, but maybe figure out how to be sustainable moving forward. Right.
Yes. Maybe I shouldn't be admitting this publicly, but I just don't want to be burned out anymore,
Yeah. So at this point, are you feeling less burned out at this point, or do you feel like you haven't gotten there yet?
I actually kind of am. I was just thinking the other day, I had a paper revision that I had to revise. I was waiting for my book editor to get, like the development editor was going to give me comments on my first 3 chapters. And this was shocking to me. They were like slow. They were like, kept asking to get to me later. And I was like, I thought the author was the one who's supposed to be late, not the other way around. But anyway, that was fine. Yeah. That was fine. I was like, that's fine. I have this grant. And then I had revisions on a paper. So I like revised the paper, resubmitted that. And then I started working again on the book. Just a week ago, the editor and I met and we talked about, and I was working on the book. Like I was finding that kind of fun and interesting. And I was finding myself kind of thinking of some experiment ideas. And I actually emailed the student and was like, hey, over the summer, I wasn't going to do any of that over the summer. But I was like, over the summer, do you want to kind of start working on a project? I emailed another collaborator who I've worked on before. I'm not accepting new collaborations right now, but another friend / collaborator was like, hey, do you want to do this project over the summer? I have a student. So like the fact that I was kind of feeling interested in actually starting a new experiment I would not have been interested in that 3 months ago. So I was kind of like, starting to experiment kind of excites me. Even the thought of going back to campus, which I typically dread, and I still kind of dread because I live 90 minutes away from my campus. The other day I was kind of driving and I was like, I could go back. Like, I'm sure once I start going back again, I'm going to be like, oh, no, I don't love this. But like, I am feeling a little bit, I feel like by the fall, I'll be maybe kind of excited to go back. So I think it's helping. The sabbatical is helping the burnout.
That's awesome. I feel like that's a very good sign, just feeling a little bit refreshed and like, okay, I might want to start something new.
Yeah, I think the book actually kind of helps because it's like, what's my perspective on the field? So the book is like a textbook on neuroscience and music for an undergrad, upper level, or like a grad class. And so it's like this overarching kind of what are the most important things I think students should learn about in the field. And doing that is kind of like almost a little inspiring. It brings up a lot of ideas for different things I could be doing. And it was encouraging to me. It's like, oh yeah, I actually still do find this interesting and like it.
And it'll be interesting to see as you move through your sabbatical or when you reach the end of your sabbatical, kind of how that time and letting those ideas percolate shapes the direction you want to take your career in the future. The other thing I wanted to ask you, because it's come up a little bit in our chatting, one of the things that we work on is setting boundaries. And you talked about the pillars and how that's been helpful as requests come in. But I feel like you've had some really good opportunities to work on that. You've told me that a lot of requests have come in since you went on sabbatical. So could you just talk a little bit about that and how you've navigated the requests for your time and how it's felt to hold boundaries? Because I think you have.
Yeah, so I've had some random emails that are like a high school student wanting to work on a project with, or like journalists wanting to do interviews. And I found that my original out of office email was not effective. It was just, I'm out of office on sabbatical. I'm not checking email regularly, which is not true. I am checking email regularly. I just want to use that as a way to not have to respond to all these emails. But then people kept following up. So then I changed it to say, I'm not checking email regularly. If you do not hear from me, please respond in August. That I said no to some of those things. I had someone ask me to be on their dissertation committee who's not from my university, and I have not yet said no, but I'm going to say no to that. So I feel like I've been pretty good about that kind of stuff. Like it has helped. It definitely being on sabbatical has for sure helped me not have to go to random meetings and saying no to things. When I'm off sabbatical, I need to make sure to keep that energy of saying no to things and not just revert back to saying yes to everything.
I think that's the hardest thing because when you're on sabbatical, you feel like you have permission, and it's hard to remember that we do have a lot of choice about what we say yes to or no to, even in non-sabbatical times.
Yeah, I need to be better about I say yes to way too much stuff. So I am going to hopefully be better about saying no to more things.
Yeah. Well, we talked about, how do you carry forward these habits post-sabbatical? So right now you're in the sabbatical, you just have to enjoy it, but we can think more about what do those boundaries look like when you're back at work and you don't have that buffer.
Yes, for sure.
So, and anything else about your sabbatical? What are you really enjoying about it? What's the best part of your sabbatical right now?
Yeah, well, the best part, here's multiple things. One is that I don't have to commute. So no commuting is amazing. It's funny is I have a little video chat. I don't know if you've ever used Marco Polo. A lot of people use it during the pandemic. It's like send video messages. So we haven't talked about this on this podcast episode yet, but I'm a travel agent for my hobby. And I've been doing it for 2 years now. I started that when I got tenure as I need a hobby. And it's quickly snowballed into being a very, it keeps me very busy. I book a lot of trips. Probably half my clients are other academics too, which is very fun. I have a little Marco Polo chat with my travel agent friends, and I never talk to them anymore because that's what I did during my commute was listen to them for 3 hours a day. But so my favorite thing about sabbatical is not having to commute. That's for sure. Not having to teach. I'm dreading teaching again because of ChatGPT. We don't need to get negative about that, but that was a struggle for me last semester. Was all of the assignments are clearly written by ChatGPT. So I love not having to do that. I love just being at home, being able to do more stuff with my kids. When I commute, I just don't get home until late, and now I get to be with my kids every night. I get to take my kids piano lessons without having to rush home on a 90-minute drive. I get to take my own piano lessons. I get to practice. I get to exercise. I'm spending quite a bit of time on my travel business, which is really fun. I booked tons of people's vacations this month. And I really love doing that. So that's been super fun too. It's been so nice.
It sounds like not having a frenetic pace and getting to lean into the points of connection, the relationship with your kids, and then also the things that you enjoy doing, like your business. And it seems like you're trying to grow that too, right? So that seems exciting.
Yeah, that's a hard part too. Cause like I was saying with like my academic job, it's like, I am always like, go, 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 like get more papers, more grants, whatever. I do everything I can. And same with the travel business. I'm like, well, yeah, I might as well just start getting, but I did kind of tell myself, look, I'm not going to turn down any clients, but my travel business is Disney, primarily Disney travel. And I've booked quite a few other things, mostly other cruises. But I'm not going to advertise myself for that. Like, I'm going to just really hone in on the Disney stuff because that's what I know the best. Like I spent a lot of time doing training for other cruise lines, and I'm not going to expand anymore. I'm focusing on what I know and do well because I don't want to get to a point where I have so many other clients that I can't take on Disney clients. And that's what I like the best. So that's what I'm going to keep it focused on.
I think when you're doing something as a side business, I mean, this is what I'm learning too, like finding your niche, right? So I work with academics on their sabbatical. That is a very small niche. That makes a ton of sense. We can put a link in the show notes too, but there might be people listening who want to book a trip with you. So where can they find you?
That would be awesome. So my website is amydoesdisney.com. They can find me on Instagram. My handle is the traveling Diz Nerd. People didn't realize that Diz Nerd was part of that it's Disney Nerd. If you're not a Disney person, you don't probably know that term, but that's what it is. But yeah, amydoesdisney.com is my website. Yeah, all the stuff about me is on there. So if you want to go to Disney, I do Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, Aulani, which is in Hawaii, Disneyland Paris.
Awesome. So my last question for you, Amy, what is one piece of advice that you would give someone who's thinking about or planning a sabbatical?
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. I honestly, so my sabbatical was kind of just by happenstance. So I started my faculty job in January, so I was kind of off cycle. So I got an email that was sent out to all faculty, like apply for a sabbatical. And I technically was not, I had tenure, but ours is based on number of years. So I was like half a year short. So I was like, oh, I'll just wait until next year. Then I got this invite to write the book from the press. They asked me to do it. I was like, this would be a good thing to have a sabbatical for. And I like writing a lot. So then I quickly emailed my dean and was like, hey, could I still get in on the sabbatical even if I'm not quite eligible? And he was like, oh, that's great. That's a great press. Like, yeah, we would love you to do that. So take the sabbatical. So it was super last minute. I wish I would have taken the time to try and find funding to do a full year. Oh my God, that sounds amazing. I wish I could have done a full year. So I kind of wish I would have done a little more planning, but I really was so incredibly burned out. I wanted this as soon as humanly possible. So that is probably is the right time because I just couldn't continue going on without a break. But in hindsight, I should have anticipated it. I don't know. Hindsight's 2020, but it would have been nice to have a full year and to have fun because I couldn't do a full year without losing half my salary. So finding funding and doing that prep work to plan for a full year would have been ideal.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Amy. It's so good to check in and hear how sabbatical is going. And I'm so glad that we got to work together.
Me too. Thank you for all your help. Seriously, I think it has made the sabbatical a much more pleasant, better, less stressful. Not that it's supposed to be stressful, but I was weirdly stressed about it, but it's made it much less stressful of an experience.
Well, good. I'm so glad. I hope you found this episode of Sabbatical 101 helpful and inspirational as you think about your own sabbatical. If you want to read more about sabbaticals or get even more support for planning your own life-changing sabbatical, head over to my website, www.bethanywolinsky.com, to read my blog and for more information about my sabbatical coaching program.